So you got your first employees, you got first trainee. I'm sure you had some dramas with people who already trained, which teach you one thing that says, hey, like maybe not taking someone who's more experienced. When you're saying that, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, why would someone who is already experienced with appraiser like you are working for someone else? It seems like a pretty easy to start a business yourself. Is that like part of the challenge? Why like not hire who is more experienced? Or why does guys who are experienced and not doing that?
Well, the nice answer is starting a new company is not for everybody. What I found was, with the not so nice answer, there was a reason why they were looking for a job and not starting their own company.
Yeah.
They just didn't quite get it. I'll put it
Right.
that way. It was
Okay.
really hard to train them. It's not for everybody. People
Right.
think, oh, appraising, it's easy. How hard can it be? But it really, there is a science to it. It's more of an art as well. And it takes, I wouldn't say a unique mind, but you definitely have to have the right mind frame to be able to be an appraiser.
And then what
And
is that mind frame? If you have like kind of to have to summarize it in like a couple sentences, like what do you think that makes you very unique in an aspect that you're able to strive in this business versus like some old folks, or not old folks, but like the old school guys, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that could potentially just working at this as a job, like day in and day out. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Appraising, it's interesting because, it's not exactly black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Our job essentially is to figure out what's the market value for a piece of real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And when people go to buy a home or a house, they want to make it their home.
Mm-hmm.
And people view it differently. So to have that mind frame of who are the buyers, it matters where the location is, what type of house is it, who are the potential buyers for the most part buying that property. Is it a family? Is it an older retired couple? What do those potential buyers care about?
Mm-hmm.
Is it bedroom count? Is it quality? Is it condition?
Mm-hmm.
All those factors that go into it.
Very interesting. Yeah. Got
So
it.
all those things matter. But, like I said, my dad was a CFO. He's a very analytical person.
Mm-hmm.
I think I definitely got that from my
Mm-hmm.
dad. My mom was kind of the opposite. She was
Mm-hmm.
more of the, hey, let's let loose and have some fun type
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And, I think maybe I got a little bit of that, but I got mostly my dad's analytical mind.
Gotcha.
And so it's just being able to analyze things, paying attention to detail,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Yeah.
really just trying to, but not so much, but then there's not so much the black and white, but having
Mm-hmm.
being able to figure out the gray area
Right.
because of the house.
Yeah.
It's a family looking at and
Right.
valuing that isn't exactly a black and white
Gotcha.
model there.
So 2008 is a challenging time when you launch a new business. There's a lot of uncertainty during that time, right? So how did you kind of take that adversity, then kind of turn it into, I think you talked about before, by not complaining about making the pay, almost to you, it's all perspective, right? To you, it's all like a increase in pay.
Right.
So that kind of works. And but with all these regulation that comes in, what do you think kind of set you apart from the folks who like decided not to do it anymore? Like there's a lot of people quitting, in the adversities, and but you started during that time. So what do you think kind of like some of the unique aspect of the opportunity that you see perhaps someone else didn't, aside from the obviously difference in the pay there? Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, in just my situation, I was single. I was young.
Mm-hmm.
I had recently bought a house at the time that I was going to try to flip.
Mm-hmm.
And then the market dived,
Mm-hmm.
went down on me. And,
Yeah.
it's kind of embarrassing to admit that as an appraiser, but it did happen.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to make as much money as I possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't married at the time. And I just really tried to just focus on my work. And
Mm-hmm.
here was this moment that I had been waiting for, that I'd worked really hard for, going to college, you know, finally figured out like, this is what my heart's always told me, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
company I always wanted to start. Here it was. This was
Right.
my company. And
Yeah.
I was really excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
And, and there was a lot of work coming in. I was starting to make money that I had never thought
Mm-hmm.
I would be able to.
Yeah.
And I could make, you know, as much as I wanted. It just, as based on how many hours I wanted to work.
Right. Right.
And I was working 7 a.m. till 10, 11, 12 o'clock at
Wow.
night, 7 days
Wow.
when I first started.
So you probably be able to pick up a lot of clients who actually have a W-2 job, like a 9 to 5 job, and have to have appraisers who's late. Because I've scheduled appraiser before, and they have very restricted hours. It's like, you know, guys, like I need this to be done, right?
Yeah.
Versus, so that's probably like kind of your advantage over there, the hardworking and the flexibility of the time to
Yeah.
kind of get into that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
At the time I would set all my inspections up on Saturdays and Sundays. So I'd
Okay.
have 5 or 6 on Saturday and 5 or 6 on Sunday. And then
Mhm.
I would type them up during the week.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And so just to kind of really adapt to the situation over there. So kind of fast forward, like you had a couple employee. At what point did you decide that you're gonna systemize? You know, like is it always kind of ingrained in your head, I'm gonna systemize, or kind of like kind of go as you go, right? And then at some
Yeah.
point that's probably like, hey, I gotta systemize this, you know?
Yeah, I would like to say that I had all the foresight and I had it all figured out, but that really wasn't the case at all. You know, unfortunately, I reacted a lot to what was going on.
Hmm.
And especially in the early years, because I was also working so much myself,
Hmm.
it was hard for me to also work on the business.
Hmm.
And, but about 5 years ago, that's when I really decided, okay, it's time for me to focus on building my business.
Hmm.
I hired one of my guys. I basically had, he moved to Colorado. And
Okay.
so rather than saying, okay, well, thanks, it's been great, I said, you know, why don't you help me build the business? We'll build it together.
Hmm.
And so we worked together to work on the business side of things, to
Hmm.
really organize the business, the structure. And about that time, we, you know, hired an accountant, a bookkeeper,
Hmm.
started marketing, created a better website. We had a company build our website.
Hmm.
Uh, and then as far as our software, when we were able to customize our software to help expedite the process of
So you have
appraising.
your own software, or is it like a traditional software
It's the
that's,
traditional software, but you can fine tune it
I
and
see.
basically customize it to your specifications to help
Hmm.
expedite the process.
Hmm.
There's also other software companies out there that help an appraiser analyze a property and
Hmm.
gather market data. And, you know, you have to pay for it, but it
Right,
also speeds up the process quite a bit. So,
right.
you know, finally taking the time to look at those companies and research and what were the best companies to go with.
Hmm.
And so not only do they help the quality of your product, but they make you a lot more efficient as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
And so we were able to implement that. And uh, also we created training documents,
Hmm.
videos online for trainees.
Nice.
You know, we're in the process now of basically building an intranet site that walks new trainees through a form. And there'll be, you know, buttons that they can press on the form that answers all the questions that trainees always ask to
Okay.
help free our schedule.
Nice, nice. How many hours would you say you spend on building on your business at the thick of it, versus now, obviously, versus like you're working in the business? Like when you first started, like how much, like how did you kind of do that transition? Because a lot of people has a challenge, me included. Sometimes you're like working in the business, you have to serve your customer, right? And then how many hours, like how did that kind of go, like to get that extra hour, get that extra couple hours to kind of working on the business, and how many is it, to start with it? Yeah.
Well, when I first started, like I said, it wasn't very many at all.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I have 7 guys working for me, and because I've trained guys who I call them my all-stars now,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they do such a great job, and they're more than happy. They're billing out a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
so that kind of that dream that I had is now coming true, where uh, because they are billing out what they
Mm-hmm.
are, I don't have to appraise myself
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
When it's really busy, I'll take advantage of that,
Mm-hmm.
or just kind of cherry pick the ones around my market area.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I spend each day just working on the business and growing the business. And, uh, I look at myself now more as a coach,
Mm-hmm.
uh, more as the CEO of the company rather than as an appraiser.
Mm-hmm.
Feel like I finally reached that point that I wanted to get to 15 years ago when I
Mm-hmm.
started the company,
Yeah.
and or 12 years ago, I should say. But uh, so I spend most of my time now training,
Mm-hmm.
answering phone calls. Each day I get 3 phone calls 3 or 4 times a day from my guys, because they work out of their house, or
Right.
I've got
Yeah.
them small offices as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I have 3 trainees now that I'm training.
Gotcha. 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 So, and then I guess like, let me ask you this question, like, what do you think, like, what's your method of identifying which, like, think back a little bit. What's your method of identifying this, what process you're going after to systemize, right? So like for some of our viewers, they're kind of in the beginning of your journey, like they're
Yeah.
working in the business or they haven't even started a business, but obviously want to set them up for success. And so they're going to switch into a working on the business. What advice would you have for them? And then what did you do when you first start doing that? Is there another system for coming up with a system, like picking the thing that you want to work on?
Yeah. And this was advice that was given to me when I first started out, but for whatever reason, it's hard as a new business owner it's almost like a teenager.
Yeah.
Like you talk to a teenager and it's like, look, this is what you should be doing right now.
Yeah.
And then the teenager's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. And they can easily dismiss what they should be doing.
Yeah.
If I could go back and talk to myself 12 years ago when I started the company, I would definitely advise people to have their end goal in mind. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And basically, paint that picture of what your dream is and what is that dream. And then you have to think, okay, how can I get there? So you start there and then almost work backwards.
Right.
And so if my end goal was to have enough appraisers where I didn't have to work, other than just kind of coaching them up and helping them out, okay, how can I get there? And then think through the whole process. Okay, then I should probably hire someone to do bookkeeping. I should probably have a management software so I don't have to spend the time to do that. And going through whatever your business is, taking through all the steps from like that dream, and then working your way backwards to, okay, then all the way to where you are now. And I think that, I don't know if that's too simplified, but I think that helps people focus on, what really needs to be done, what's important, what's not, what to ensure that you're not wasting your time
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, I did get caught
Mhm.
as an appraiser. I was not a business owner. I was
Yeah.
an appraiser who had, you know, his own company.
Mhm.
So, you know, I wasted a lot of years trying to make money where if I did focus on training people and hiring people early on,
Mhm.
I would have exponentially grown
Mhm.
and probably been a lot more successful than I am now.
Yeah. Well, you're pretty successful already. So
I
yeah,
mean, all
don't feel bad.
relative, of course, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy where I'm at now.
Good.
I'm,
That's awesome.
yeah,
So now you have small children. Now,
I,
like think back a little bit, you obviously really treasure this entrepreneur opportunity, be able to kind of working for yourself. What are some exercise that you're having your kids do, or some influence you try to exercise to your, put it onto your kids, lesson that you try to get them learn? Like, what are some things that you're kind of helping them shaping for their future so they become successful entrepreneurs?
that's a really good question. Uh, you know, a few things come to mind. Uh, First and foremost, I always try to have them think independently. I
Mm,
want them to think for themselves. I want them to question everything.
mm,
And, you know, if without being, you know, ornery or whatever. And then there's also times where I am able to play with them in the morning,
mm,
and I am able to, you know, take them somewhere or pick them up from school.
mm.
And, you know, I get questions from sometimes from my boys. Hey, Dad, why shouldn't you be working right now? Why aren't you working? And
Yeah,
I do let them know, hey, this is why I created my company,
yeah.
so I could spend this time with you guys. I have other guys working right now, and so I don't have to.
Mhm.
And there's sometimes where I don't know if I even want to say that to them because I want them to be hard workers as they get older.
Yeah, yeah,
But because, you know, they don't have that example that I had growing up.
right.
And so then it's like, okay, what am I doing to my kids when they see me just hanging out with them and not
Yeah,
working?
yeah,
Is that good? I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
But I do let them know how hard I worked to get to this point,
Mhm.
and how, you know, and another thing too that I've learned is just, you know, whenever I look back on my life, I think back on what makes me happy or what am I proud of,
Mm.
or what do I really regret. And whenever I really regret anything in the past, it's when I listened to other people and didn't follow my own gut.
Mhm.
And whenever I listen to my own gut, things have seemed to work out.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I started my company, I had a lot of people saying, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that now? It's a horrible idea. Are you sure you
Mhm.
thought this through? Are you
Mhm.
sure you should be doing this?" And, you know, I could have taken that and listened to all those people and basically said, you know what, you're right.
Mhm.
And not started a company and just worked for someone else because that was the safe route to go.
Right.
But you know, I think sitting in the jungle for 2 years really did help me think things through. And
Yeah.
so I thought, no, this is what I want to do, and I'm ready, and I
Mhm.
think it'll be just fine.
Yeah.
And you know, I I think that is another thing that I'm trying to instill in my boys is just to, you know, listen to their heart, their minds, and follow their gut while also listening to mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a difficult question to ask because there's only so many examples I can give you at this point.
Yeah.
But, you know, they are going to be reading Rich Dad Poor Dad
Yeah.
and
And play cash flow game.
play the cash flow game. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So last set of questions, and then we'll wrap this up. So for someone who wants to do appraiser company, there's not many people who said, "Hey, my dream is creating an appraiser company."
Right. Right. Yeah.
But for someone who is interested to kind of find out more about this, industry, and for someone who is kind of really interested to start doing that business, like being an appraiser, what would you say, like, what would you give a couple good resources for them to kind of get started? Like, what are these, you know, like, what should they kind of look into? Where should they, books that they should read, webinar they should check out your website? We're probably going to put it together, you know, as part of the footnote of the video. So what are some stuff that helps them to start their business as appraisers?
Well, you know, appraisers are usually an interesting breed for
Yeah.
sure. But there's a lot of videos online now that you can, you know, you Google residential real estate appraiser or commercial appraiser. And there are a lot of videos out there that give you a good impression of what the job's like. There's a lot of articles written. McKissick.com is they provide classes for appraisers. They have a good
how do you spell that? Because
McKissick, McKissock.
Okay, gotcha.
So
that's probably what you would have recommend them to kind of start looking into if they want to switch their job to be appraisers. And
yeah,
then
absolutely.
And then what is a good one business book that you really think made an impact other than Rich Dad Poor Dad? But really kind of helped you like systemize your company?
One good business book.
Could be a couple.
You know, I think the one that really helped influence me a lot was the 4-Hour Work Week.
Okay.
Because that was my end goal. And there were a lot of thoughts I had before I read that book, and it really helped me fine tune those thoughts and organize them, and gave me some other thoughts and ideas that I didn't have before. You know, I can't say that I've implemented those, and I definitely do not have a 4-hour work week. I still work. You know, my regular hours are probably 9 to 5. With a nice lunch with my boys, but well, nowadays it's lunch with my boys because they're not in school.
Yeah.
But yeah, 9 to 5. I don't work weekends. I promised myself and that I would never work a Saturday because I have little boys and I want to be around for them. So no matter, even if I get a work phone call, I don't answer it on Saturdays. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Again, going back to if you have your own business, you have the freedom to kind of, you know, set your hours, set your working schedules, etc. So sometimes it's not necessarily kind of like working less because we all need to get stimulated in some way or the other, but rather kind of have the choice to work and the choice to quit if you don't want to work.
Right. Yeah. And I'm able to take vacations now too, which is nice.
Yeah.
Well, right now, but you know what I mean. We had a vacation in the summer.
Staycation. Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for joining us today. It was very interesting to find out this kind of off the beaten path, you know, industry of appraiser, and hopefully it gives us, give our viewers a few ideas of how to go about it.
Yeah, and I appreciate this too. This is my first interview, you know, in this regard. So. You know, this isn't my strong suit, but, you know, I do appreciate this time and you asked me all these questions. It was fun. I liked it a lot.
Cool. Awesome.
I hope I helped. You know, I don't know if I helped at all, but if anybody wants to follow up and ask any questions, I'd love to answer them. Or if they're interested in appraising, you know, and just want to talk about it, I'm more than willing to talk about it as well.
And you can work for Brian's company to start with.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.